Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome back to
Game Friday. Yeah.
the Game and Friday edition of VR News.
So, guys, did you miss me? Of course you missed me. Tell me you missed me. Go ahead. Feed the ego. I need the ego fed.
And guys, you can be brutally honest. If you didn't miss them, let them know. It's all good.
Feed the ego.
Let's start with a game called Paranormal Activity VR, also known as Paranormal Activity: The Lost Soul. Survival horror game like Resident Evil 7, but that is where it differs. What they're trying to do in their game is not supply you with as many means of dispatching enemies in order to kind of build the terror quotient quite a bit in the game. They're also trying to make each subsequent playthrough more random and unique. So if you encounter a creature, or some paranormal activity in one room, the next time or the next game you enter that room, it may not repeat. So definitely like the potential of that. Now, apparently when this was on display, there were those who literally ripped the HMD off their head and ran out screaming. So if you're not the kind of person for VR horror, the game is definitely taking itself seriously. Now, have I been scared to that point yet? No. Do I think that type of a game is still coming in VR? Hell yeah. There's so much potential for horror in VR. We've touched on that, but we haven't even scraped the surface of what's to come horror-wise. Of that, I am certain. All right, Robo Recall. One of the issues I had with that game in the quick look was a lack of smooth locomotion. And kind of ad nauseum, I've said, look, if you're going to have that kind of locomotion, like the teleport based, please provide a second option. And to their credit, most of the developers, most of the games are coming out with that now. Robo Recall free, unfortunately, didn't come with that, and it was definitely missed. Thankfully, that has been addressed. A mod company called MGS Studios has a developer on board called Tonsta31, and he's created a mod for Robo Recall that does exactly what I had hoped the first time around, and that is provide smooth locomotion. You can tweak things like 45-degree snap turning, adjusted slow motion, fixed damage, and some other additions. You can get the full list of that in the link below. Next news story. Third-party headphones for the PlayStation VR that look very similar to those for the Oculus Rift. Same clasp-on design, same ability to, tilt them up and tuck them out of the way. I think this is good. Me personally, I've never enjoyed using the earbuds really in VR. There's just something artificial about having those in your ear, for me anyways. So I've always used my over-the-ear headphones, and with the PlayStation HMD, the design that's already there, that's just an awful lot of kit on your head. So for me, these are actually very welcome. I'll probably buy a pair. $49.99 US is their retail price. No release date yet. They simply say coming soon. So if we get an update, I will let you know. Now, Oculus. Apparently not done with their price cuts. Now they're slashing the price on their sensors. So they were $79 before US. They've slashed them by $20 US down to $59. So if you're getting a full room scale bundle, it's about $220. That's not too bad. That's a significant savings over the old. And again, if you're, on the fences, unless you've got your heart set on an HTC Vive. And I don't blame you. It's still, in my opinion, the best tracking that's out there in VR, period. I had a great experience with Robo Recall. It definitely restored my faith. I enjoyed the 3-sensor setup, but I would still argue that the Vive one, is better at the end of the day, as close as it is. But for those of you who do not have maybe that desire for a Vive, you just want to get in with VR, it's at an attractive price point right now. I would say would be a good time. to jump in. Next news piece, StrikerVR. They have a third-party haptic feedback rifle-style machine gun. They've been working on this. In fact, we talked about them probably about 3 months ago, just 2016, around October. Well, they are at GDC and they've got some updates to their haptic design. So they've got a single fire mode, which gives you a satisfying kick every time you pull the trigger. You actually get a little nudge on your shoulder. Now, obviously not enough to worry about dislocating your shoulder or anything as if it were a real weapon, but just enough of a haptic nudge to add to your sense of immersion. You're also, when you pull the trigger enough to deplete the virtual clip, you're going to get tiny nudges to indicate that you're out of ammo. So that's kind of cool, using the haptic feedback, not just as, an explosion or damage indicator, but a way to tell you that, hey, your gun is almost out of ammo, which is very good. There's a button on the side of the gun used to toggle between different virtual weapon modes that have different haptic effects. For example, one of them is a full auto, which gives you a satisfying repeating kick as you pull the trigger, and another mode that is a grenade launcher, which gives the feeling of a single thump followed by a rumble indicating the weapon is being reloaded. So it kind of mimics literally the grenade launching and then another being installed in its place. Now, battery life, they say 1.5 hours of continuous use. So that probably translates, according to them, to about 3-4 hours of use, which is going to be more realistic because you're not going to constantly, even in an FPS heavy game, constantly be pulling the trigger. There are instances of downtime. So not a bad amount of time. They also offer a backpack solution with apparently more battery time. For me personally, that starts getting a little too bulky. I'm actually okay with the 1.5, but personally, with all of the other stuff that I either already have or still want to get, that's probably kind of low down on my priority list. And the next story, Chinese company with a product called Hypereal, and it's a new VR headset, and it claims to be able to do room scale, offers hand track controllers as well. But the big push for these guys is minimum specs required to play. So they advertise a Core i3 as being your entry-level CPU, or an AMD FX 8350. And on the graphical side of the equation, either an NVIDIA 960 or an AMD 470 as your entry-level card. Now, how does that translate to performance? Well, we know that they are relying on an asynchronous method. So that's where you start adding artificial frames to maintain the illusion and smoothness of the magical 90 frames per second. So a bit of a shortcoming there, but if it lowers, that entry point a bit, which the i3 certainly does, probably not too bad. Now, the reason for this headset existing in the first place, because right now it's pretty much only available on the other side of the Pacific in China, is because of the rising middle class not having the same level of disposable income as other parts of the world. They feel that they have tapped into a price point and an offering that's going to be able to capitalize on that and build a nice market share for them. All right. Last story, guys. PlayStation VR app called Littlestar. And apparently what it's going to allow is access to USB drives with support for a wide range of VR videos, 3D and 180-degree content included. Now, the next update is going to be version 1.07. That kind of brings it full circle to include, so you will be able to, at that point, attach a thumb drive or some other USB-style device to your PS4 with 180-degree content or 3D and view it on your PlayStation 4. Not sure how much use I would have for that or anyone in general, but I guess if you don't have a PC, which is true, some people may just have the console and do internet browsing on their PlayStation 4. I suppose that'd be a nice feature to have. All right, guys, that is it for the Friday edition of VR News. I've been waiting all week for this. Off to some gaming. Cheers, guys.